Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb for July of 2016. July gives us 5 different visible planets that we can see. Well, all 5 visible planets that we can see with the naked eye. We can have a chance to see all of them this month. And we got some warm nights and short nights, but warm nights. So, yeah, July's going to be pretty good. So let me just dive right in. I'll start talking about the planets that you can see. Then I'll go over the events that are happening, not too many, and then I'll talk about the constellations. So here we go. What will we see? So I have it set up for July 15th, an average middle of the month day. And I'm going to go to sunset, and I'm going to look to the west. And what I'm going to see over here is Jupiter off in the west, right over here. Okay, that's the first one you're going to be able to see all month. Look to the west, find the bright spot out there, yeah, you can see it's a little bit to the left of Leo the Lion, or under the Lion. And yeah, so get out there though before 11 p.m. It starts to set around 11 p.m. depending on the time of the month. And also, get your observing in now, because what you'll notice is that day by day, Jupiter gets lower and lower and lower in the sky. So it's going to be harder and harder to see. So anyway, let me get back to July 15th. So look in the west, find Jupiter, get your telescope out, look at the cloud bands, look at the Galilean moons. That's job number 1. Job number 2 is after sunset. In fact, let's go to 9 o'clock. And let me just get the moon out of there. Go a couple days later. Just look to the south, okay, and you'll see Saturn and Mars making a nice little appearance over in the south. You'll see Scorpius over here and Libra over here, the scales. And just look south, and I would highly suggest bringing a map of Scorpius and Libra. Now, what's happened is Mars has actually moved from being pretty close to Saturn all the way over here in Libra. And it's going to kind of continue to do that for over the next couple of months. And yeah, look for Mars. It's going to be the brighter one of the two. It's also going to be red. Saturn's going to be off to the left. It's going to be less bright, but Saturn's a lot cooler in a telescope because it's got the rings that make it look so fantastic. Also, don't get confused with Antares down here, okay? Antares is a bright star, but it kind of twinkles a bit more than Mars. So if you're getting confused, from my observations, I feel like Antares twinkles a bit more, whereas Mars is sort of a dead red. But yeah, so they're going to be out there. What's going to happen is if, let's say you're out a little bit later, okay, let's fast forward time. It's now getting later and later and later. Saturn and Mars are going to go down, and then Mars will set around 1 a.m., and then Saturn will be about an hour and a half later after that. So we've got Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, and we should also be able to see Venus and Mercury, but we got to take a look around sunset. So I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to go back to sunset, and I'm going to look over here in the west, okay? Now, this is July 19th. You should be able to see Venus after sunset. Now, it's going to be kind of tough because it's right after sunset. The sky is still bright. Excuse me, but it's not impossible. So what's going to happen over the next couple of nights, though, is it's going to be a little darker around the same time. So Venus should be easier to see. It'll be a little bit higher. And Mercury is also going to be up and to the left. In fact, supposedly, looking at Venus, supposedly you can see it after the first week of July. And it only sets about half an hour after the sun. But it's brighter. So Venus is going to be easier to see. So if you can find Venus, you can also find Mercury, but you won't really be able to see Mercury until the last week of July. But it will be there. I would suggest bringing binoculars for that case. And then, so really, the end of July is a great time to see all of the planets all at once. So you can see Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn all in one shot at the end of July, which is pretty remarkable. Pretty cool to see. Venus and Mercury will be hard to see, but they'll be there. All right, so yeah, let's talk about some events, and let's do that by tracking the moon. Now, the 4th of July is when we have a new moon, and that means we can't see the moon. I was talking in my podcast about how having a new moon during 4th of July means, I don't know, maybe you can get some good pictures of the constellations and some fireworks all in one shot. I don't know. Ask Lane. He'll probably figure that out. Or Dave. Dave's getting pretty good with those cameras. But new moon on the 4th. On the 5th will be a slight crescent moon. You can sort of see it down here. If you zoom in. And then what's going to happen over the next couple nights is the moon's going to get higher and higher and thicker and thicker. And then on the 8th, the moon and Jupiter are going to be about, what do I have it, 4 degrees apart. That's about 3 finger widths at arm's length. Okay, so not too far. And yeah, then let's see. If you follow the pattern, the moon's going to keep getting higher and higher and thicker, and thicker until July 11th. July 11th is the first quarter moon. What happens with the first quarter moon is the right half of it is lit up. You can see it from sunset all the way, even before sunset. You can see it until about midnight. And yeah, that's really about it. So again, what's going to happen, night by night, it's going to get thicker and thicker and more toward the east in the night sky. And then from the 13th to the 16th is what I have as a really good time to be looking at the moon, Saturn, and Mars. So on the 13th, when you go out, you'll be able to see a gibbous moon with Mars down to the left of that and Saturn almost directly left. That's about 9:30 p.m. And you can sort of see Antares there as well. Now, the next night, on July 14th, the moon makes a really cool triangle with Mars and Saturn, and in fact, pretty much a rectangle if you include Antares there. So that's a pretty neat sight to see. You don't get that too often. The next night, the moon gets really close to Saturn, about 3 degrees above Saturn. And the next night, Mars, Saturn, and the moon make sort of a line in the sky. So go ahead, take a look out there. If you're having trouble finding Saturn or Mars regularly, use the moon as your guidepost. So go out there from the 13th to the 16th. And then if you've noticed, throughout the past couple nights, the moon has gotten bigger. Let me rewind. That was the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. And then if we keep going, 17th, 18th, 19th, oh, got to zoom out. What do we get? A nice full moon. That's going to be out the entire night from sunset to sunrise. It's going to be nice. Then really not much happens for the next week, except if you look at the moon, okay, you're going to have to get up later and later. Let me go to a couple days later. Oh, now the moon's not rising until about 11 o'clock. And it's going to be thinner. And if you go all the way to the 26th of July, you have to wait until, let's see, oh, there we go, about 1 a.m. for the moon to rise up. And even then, actually let me put on 26th there, even then, it's a third quarter moon. The left half is lit up. It rises at about, looks like about midnight 30, somewhere around there. And you're going to be able to see that from about that time until the morning and even into the morning. And the last cool thing that I want to share with you is, if you've noticed, the moon kind of follows this green path. Now, technically, that green path is the ecliptic. That's technically the path that the sun travels. But the moon is not far off. And what happens is, there are some stars within the path. And so if you watch the moon, it's going to get really close to, Aldebaran. The brightest star in Taurus. So now what you don't notice during most of the time is the moon is actually slowly moving across the constellations. Very, very slowly. You don't notice it. But you can notice it if it happens to line up with a very bright star, such as Aldebaran. Now you see I'm moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. And according to Starry Night here, okay, The moon will cover up Aldebaran right about there, about 6:13 in the morning. Washington, D.C. is supposed to be 6:05 in the morning. So, get out there, see what you can see. But you'll need a telescope for this because it's during the daytime. And when it's during the daytime, you can't really see the star because it's daytime. So it looks like 6:10, somewhere around there. And what's going to happen is time is going to go by, and right around... Let's see. Oh, it doesn't even show it. So 6:53, before 7 o'clock, Aldebaran will jump out behind it. So that's the last cool thing for July. Let's do one last little round of constellations. So let me go back to July 15th. And let's go to sunset, and let's move ahead a little bit. Let's go to like 9:30, and let's look straight above us. I don't recommend it because you can get kind of confused and turned around very quickly. But if you look straight up, what do you see? Well, around 9:30, you'll be able to see Booties, or Boötes, the Kite, the Shepherd, the Ice Cream Cone. And you can see Corona Borealis. I think, let me zoom in a little bit. I think these stars, I find it to be more of a C as opposed to this little curve here. And you've also got Hercules up here, which has the beautiful Hercules cluster. Oh, this is not working out today, is it? Hercules cluster right there in Hercules, which is fun to find with your telescope. Okay. Now, let's say you are looking at the zenith again, but let's say it's later in the day, night. That's when you can see the summer triangle here. Okay. Summer triangle is actually 3 constellations, actually the 3 brightest stars in each of the 3 constellations. This is Lyra, and it's got the bright star Vega. This is Cygnus the Swan, and it's got the bright star Deneb. And then this is the bright constellation Aquila, which has the bright star Altair. So these 3 stars make the summer triangle, which even in light polluted skies, even by beach towns with lots of lights and boardwalk and all that, you can still see the summer triangle. You might not see the constellations, but that's what you can see. Now let's go to the early morning. Let's say you go out on the beach and you stay up until dawn. You might be able to see Lacerda and Pegasus and Andromeda sort of straight up above you as well. But let me talk about those summer constellations first. Okay. In fact, let me look south. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes, south. And then look southwest. Sorry, just got a little turned around here. There we go. So remember, summer triangle over here. The spring constellations are actually setting in the west. Okay. And you can find... no, you know what? I'm going to skip that. I just want you to take one more look. That's why I was getting a little confused. I had the time wrong. Let's go to about 10:30. Again, I want to encourage you to find Scorpius out there in the south. It's a nice fish hook. Libra is out there as well. If you look north, what you can do is find the Big Dipper. Okay, if you find the Big Dipper, 7 bright stars, follow that arc of the handle. Follow that arc to the next bright star, which is Arcturus. Follow the arc to Arcturus, and that's Booties the Shepherd. And if you follow the arc to Arcturus and then speed on to Spica, the next brightest star on that curve, that's the brightest star in Virgo. Okay. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much it for the month of July. We've got some short nights but warm nights, and yeah, with that, I'd like to finish off by wishing you very clear, dark skies for the month of July.